this card has to be played. I'm honestly confused when I don't see it in the deck profile. Unless I don't know something that I'm supposed to know, or I'm experiencing something completely different, this card is super good. What's going on, my friends? It's BenCappp here. We've got a branded Tearlament deck profile for you. I like to call them brandlements. I know a lot of you are still looking to play branded cards. This is a great way to do it. I tailored this deck over and over and over and over again, just to try to make it as reactable as possible. How can we make this deck as optimized as possible, push through a few negations, and I'm going to be going over the choices. I will do some test hands, so you will see some combos. If you want to see more, we'll make another video, but this is mainly focused on the deck, the choices, and I will show you why it's ordered the way it is. So when I'm building this deck right now, we know branded may lose to a few negations, a hand trap here or there. This deck is ordered now to kind of demonstrate what cards allow you to keep moving through negations as best as possible. So I think the MVP by far, I was going to say Shaylin. They changed the name, so it's now Shiren. Shiren is the best card in this deck, I argue, because this card allows this deck to function in so many different ways that it makes a ton of different cards live, like instantly. Really helps fix a hand, push through a hand. The mills, that's not even counting the mills. The mills, we all know, if you get lucky, you can just explode. So the next best card is definitely Instant Fusion. If you have this card, you probably want to just use it immediately to force something out, because you're probably going to go right into kick close. At some point in your combos, you're going to go into kick close. So if you don't Instant Fusion right away, you're going to be redundant in your play. The only other options are Winda, which you actually can save with branded opening at the end phase, so it is an option. And also Millenniumize Restrict, it's a good card. So that being said, the best spell card secondary to Instant Fusion is branded opening. This card is insane in this deck. This combines with way too much. Super good on your opponent's turn as well. This card combos with the trap card, which will allow you to search a Tearlaments card. Combos well with any of the Tearlaments, will trigger their effects immediately. Even just branded opening and any of the Tearlaments chicks will allow you to go right into Masquerade and search your Fusion or branded in red. So this card is insanely good, super good, has to be at 3. Next after that is branded Fusion. You don't want it to get ashed, so I would like to generally save this card, moving through some negations. This card is kind of your blowout card if you get to resolve it. You are able to send Tearlaments cards to the graveyard in order to trigger their effects to get another fusion after your Lubellion fusion. It's just insane. You can send a Shaddoll to set up the Tearlaments to get into your Winda. It's definitely like your save last card, because this card fixes any field that you have. It'll fix it, it'll get what you needed into the graveyard, and then you'll finalize your board. The next card is Fusion Deployment. This card is insane. In an event that maybe you want a normal Alibur, you want a normal, they changed all the names, I'm sorry guys. Merly, this card is phenomenal of getting out Reinhardt. On top of that, in the event that you need to get Fallen of Albaz out as well, it will accomplish that. So again, you can really only play this card in this kind of build. It's only for fusions. You can't go into links or exceeds if you're using this card. So this card is definitely made for this deck. But it does, again, target Reinhardt or Fallen of Albaz. So super threatening card. This one card, once he's out, without your normal summon, you're already looking at full combos. So very good, very reactable card. Go through a few negations and then you let that rip, you're gonna get somewhere. Branded in red, again, also great. I was trying to play it at 2 for quite a while, but in the event you draw 2, in the event you draw even 1, and you can't get one of the small package in the graveyard, it's tough. The moment this card is live, we all know how good it is, but I didn't want to put 2 because it just felt like it got in the way sometimes. So Super good card, very, very reactable card. That's why it's at the top of this deck profile. After that is Foolish. Foolish, extremely versatile, very reactable. At the very, very least, you can get your card back, you know, little upstart goblin combo here. But besides that, I mean, you can send Rhino Heart, ditch your card from your hand, combo without normal summoning. You can send a Tearlaments fusion right away. You can put one of these boys in the graveyard. Could be Tragedy, it might just be Alibur, whatever you got to do to get Branded and Red live. This card is very, very good at solving what might be an errored hand. After that, the Field Spell, we're going to, of course, have the fourth copy in it, Terraforming. This card is very good, and it's very good at getting something out of the way if your opponent wants to stop it, because it does a lot. You get to add a Tearlaments to your hand, and you also get to pop a card whenever one of the Tearlaments gets shuffled back into the deck. So this card, you want to see it every time. You don't want to see more than one, of course, but it's something you want to see to get your motion going. I am playing 2 Super Poly. This was something that I went back and forth with Shaddoll Fusion. Super Poly is just better at breaking boards. It's more versatile. The Shaddoll Fusion is extremely good in maybe game 2 when you want to throw in a dragon as well to get stuff out of the way. I mean, you probably want to side that in. I mean, it's extremely good going second, but when I'm starting my first duel off, I want Super Poly in the deck. It's just too good. There's too many ways. We're playing Proskenion. We're playing Dragostepelia. There's too many ways this card becomes effective, even if you have a Shaddoll in hand. If you already have a Shaddoll in the field, you can go into the light target or just sink it into another Winda. I feel like it's necessary. And because of the choices that I've made, we're playing 2 Allure. Not even 3, there's no point. It's just, I want to get to these cards at the top of this deck profile that do stuff without having to have a normal summon. They're just good, reactable, fast cards that can push you through 2-3 negations. So that's why the Allure's in there. I'm not playing the I know it was called Crime before, Tearlaments Crime. I don't know if it's called that anymore, honestly. That would let you add a card that's banished. I don't see that that's good in the way that this deck needs to be. So following that up, we have Called By. Called By is just good, period. That's why it's at 1. It's just a good card. Even if you're not stopping hand trap, setting it, whatever you got to do, it's just a great card, and it's gonna help this deck, stay in position. So this was a small package I added very recently, because again, when you look at this deck, there's not many, monsters. And for instance, the Despia package, the branded package, there's 4 monsters. There's 2 monsters in the Shaddoll package. We're playing just 1 Havness, 2 Merlee, and then of course triple Rhino Heart, triple Chiron, however you say that. So this lets you get to more cards without losing any advantage, and at the best case scenario, you gain advantage from it. So again, Nessie is Aqua. So if you use Nessie and you discard a Tearlaments, one of the chicks, I don't know if anyone's gonna hate me saying chicks, whatever. You discard one of the female Tearlaments cards, you're looking at Kitkalos immediately, and a card back in hand. So it's literally a 1-card Kitkalos without normal summoning. So the card's extremely good. Worst case scenario, you discard a copy of itself, you jump in the Jackalope back to hand. So that's why I've decided on Jackalope. I don't want to play Mothman. Doing a Dark World dealings and letting your opponent draw a card and discard a card is way too good for your opponent nowadays. So like, there's no way I'm doing that. Jackalope and Nessie just go back and forth. You can get Jackalope from Nessie, and then you can get a Nessie on board from Jackalope. So again, it's Aqua. Worst case scenario, you discarded itself. You're getting your card back, so you didn't lose any advantage. You now have Jackalope, who's the same exact discard outlet as Nessie was. And again, if you discard a Tearlaments with the Jackalope, it's get close because Nessie's engraved. So these 3 cards are phenomenal, and they allow you to just get moving a little bit more for free. You are playing 1 Fallen of Albaz. There's absolutely no reason I would play 2. It's a brick in the hand, period. When it's in hand, you probably want to discard it in some way, shape, or form, and then use it as Tearlaments fodder in the graveyard just to jump into Lubellion and kind of fix the situation. Because once you have Fallen of Albaz in hand or in grave, you got to jump into Lubellion in order to make your Branded Fusion live. And thankfully, Tearlaments do that very easily. So you're going to be able to use Lubellion to go into a Winda, Dragostapelia, kick Colossus. I mean, Lubellion is basically a Tearlaments card as far as I'm concerned. It also triggers the field spell, you know, all that good stuff. It's very good. That's why we're only playing one, we don't need two. Now, the Despia package is 1 Alibur, 1 Tragedy, and 1 Ad libitum. I know it's like, you're probably like, why would you play 1 Alibur? I don't really want to see Alibur. I want to use Branded Opening, because Branded Opening is crazy in this deck. So, the only time I want to see Alibur is from its special summon from opening. If Alibur's in hand, I'm going to use it to bait some stuff out, for sure. But I mainly want a normal Rhinoheart. That's my main objective. If anything, you know, I summon Merlee, I would rather summon Merlee in some instances as an Alibur. So, I don't want to see it, I want to use Branded Opening. Tragedy, super good in this deck. If it gets milled, you can add your Alibur because maybe you don't have a normal summon, maybe you need to get, you know, Branded Fusion, maybe you want to add Opening. Tragedy is phenomenal in grave to add Alibur, or it's phenomenal just in grave, period. This card gets milled, a lot of times don't activate it, because then you can add Opening, Fusion, or Red in hand. Because again, a lot of time you don't need Alibur in hand. So this card is super good to just let it settle, go through, and then add a card that got milled. We all know Ad libitum. It's really in here for Branded and Red. I'm going to be honest with you. I've almost cut it a couple times. I hate opening this card. Despise it. But that being said, again, Shiren fixes that if you want to discard it to get, you know, the Branded and Red set up. It's okay to have it in here because it's so good at what it does. You just don't want to open it, period. But after that, Rhinoheart, we all know it's a powerhouse of the cards. I mean, of the deck. That's why it's at 3. Just normaling this card alone can just straight up get you into Kaleido Heart, period. Its discard effect, or it being sent to the graveyard, super good too. It's just very versatile. That's why I like to play the fusion deployment. I don't always want to normal it. Sometimes I want to mill it, just send it. The danger cards, all that can just really let this card live its life. Merlee is at 2. Again, I don't want to. First, I don't want to rely on my mills. I don't want this card in my hand to open. I just don't. And all you can do with it is really, you know, normal summon it. It's not good to start this card. So that's why it's at 2. And Havness is at 1. I don't want to rely on my mills. Again, the mills is an added thing. I don't rely on them. And the way that this deck is played, you don't rely on mills at all. Every time something's milled, it's just like a positive blowout. So that being said, there's no reason for me to have this in my hand and rely on it milling 3 or something like that, and maybe just hitting nothing. This card is the first card I send with Rhinoheart. It's the first card I send if I'm using Lubellion. It's just the level 3 Tearlaments that lets me fuse. That's all I really use this card for. It is pretty cool to use on your opponent's turn to hit something, but yeah, that's what I'm gonna do if it's in my hand. Otherwise, it's at 1. It does its job. It's the third name for fusing. The Shaddoll package, and I will go over some other deck profiles because this Tearlaments are insane. But in this particular deck, there's no reason I felt to play a Hedgehog, you know, a Dragon in the main to start. You just want Beast to draw a card and to use them to get into Winda. So Squadamata obviously just lets you get into Beast. If obviously you've hit Beast and then you mill Squamata, you know, boohoo. You're just gonna use it for Winda anyway, so that's why that package is so small. This card is the only trap card I'm playing. I've seen a lot of different builds and a lot of different people either not playing it, playing it 1, playing this one, playing the third one, which is yeah. This card is very good, but we're not playing it. It just doesn't. I don't need this card set at the end of my turn to feel like I've done a good job and I'm going to win the duel. I'm already confident in the setups of this deck and the replayability, the grinding game that this deck has. I don't want this in my hand, so that's why we're just not playing that. That being said, we're playing 2 of the Saliek. That's how you say it. This card wins you the duel for sure. If it's in your hand, again, Branded Opening, huge. Danger card, ditching it, huge. Reinhardt goes to grave, ditch this card, huge. I mean, this card lets you add a Tearlaments when it's sent to the graveyard. So I play 2. I want to mill 1 potentially, and I don't mind seeing it in my hand. I always want to have one set when I'm ending my turn because it's that good. You get Reinhardt and this card down, you're negating a monster effect on your opponent's turn. You're sending Kaleidoheart, and he comes back and you shuffle a card. So that alone, the recurability of that, being able to trigger Kaleidoheart at will, huge. If you have a different Tearlaments, maybe you just leave up, again, Kit Close, and this card, I'd rather sit in Kit Close with this trap card than Kaleidoheart by itself. Kit Close plus the trap card, you negate a monster effect your opponent has. Kit Close goes to grave, you're milling 5. I could imagine you're going to mill a Tearlaments, and then you're fusing potentially into Kaleidoheart anyway to shuffle a card. So this card has to be played. I'm honestly confused when I don't see it in the deck profile. Unless I don't know something that I'm supposed to know, or I'm experiencing something completely different, this card is super good. I understand that this card sends a card directly from your deck to the graveyard, but it doesn't stop a monster effect, which I think is super important. I don't want to just put them face down. I want to stop their effect immediately and then shuffle them. So I've tested this card, and it just doesn't seem nearly as good as this one. Period. I'm gonna get everything I want out of this card every time. I don't need to send one directly from my deck. I'm gonna end my turn with a Tearlaments face up on the field. So if you're not doing that for some reason, then that would explain why you're not playing it. Extra deck. So this has to be in the deck, period. This card is super good. You won't use it hardly ever, but when you do, it's extremely good. It's just the whole deck, this card, this card, this card, all prevent you from utilizing any cards besides Fusion. So in the event that you have to use this card, it is more than enough, which is awesome. You know, it kind of fixes the problem. And for those of you who don't know, this card, you pass turn, you take a card off the top of your opponent's deck. Hopefully it's a spell, because if it is, you get to draw a card, so it's a +1. And then when you detach this card, if you detach a Tearlaments card, you select that card to detach. It's used as a card effect, actually. So we'll trigger the effect in grave, and then you get to fuse. So it solves what might be a mediocre hand and makes it extremely good. Great card. Dark is in here. Never gonna use it really, but in the event that you, for some reason, have to, maybe you just got Jackalope and a random card sitting on the field. This card's great. It's still relevant. You can special summon a card from your opponent's graveyard, probably a good card. At the very least, when it's destroyed, you're adding a dark monster to hand, probably going to be Shiren. So it can be good when it needs to be. But those are the only 2 cards I'm playing that aren't fusions. I want to just have some option. I don't want to have no option, so that's why it's in there. Millennium Eyes restrict against instant fusion targets, the only way you're going to be making it. Just a really good card to have as a choice, especially if you're going second. Winda, playing 2 Windas. This is simply because when the first one dies, just make another one. Again, super poly. You know, I can poly into a second Winda if I need to get rid of something. They outed my board. I just want to be able to make it twice. Period. Construct, you can't make, as you can see, you can't make Construct unless it's a super poly. So again, if you're outing my Winda, I want to make a play. I'm gonna jump into Construct to take off your light target, and because I made Winda in the first place, I've already shuffled Beast back in the deck. I'm gonna send Beast, so I'm gonna draw a card, and I'm gonna get rid of your problematic card for me. So it's still really good. Masquerade is so good, we all know this, and again, Branded Opening plus a Tearlaments female chick equals Masquerade instantly. Super good. Lubellion might as well change its name to Lubellion the Tearlaments Dragon. Branded Fusion, target of course. If you have Fallen of Albaz, solves that. Shuffles the cards just like the Tearlaments do. It's super good. This is literally in here just to use as the Ice Blade cost. So you're not making this in any instance. It's just going to be used for that in order for you to set your Branded in red, whatever you got to do. And I want you to pay attention to the fact that you might want to set Branded Opening instead of Branded in red, depending on things. That's how good this card is, because if you have a Tearlaments in your hand and you set Branded Opening, you've now set up, and again, you probably have shuffled Albion back in the deck at some point too. With this card on your opponent's turn, you can choose when to make a different fusion by discarding a Tearlaments, and you can search a card for next turn. I mean, so always consider using Albion to set Branded Opening as well. We all know Mirror Jade, that's why we're here. Very good card, it's there. Kid Kolos, I'll show you a couple things for these two cards, but I'm sure you guys are aware of what they do at this point. Dragosepelia, very good super poly target. Once the Kid Kolos is in graveyard, great option for Tearlaments to shuffle your Kid Kolos back. You see I'm only playing one of each. I don't feel there's any reason to play more than one. You know, I've not been harshly detrimented by playing one yet. I'm sure in the future maybe one of them gets called by or something, they get yoinked out of my graveyard, and I consider playing two at some point. But for right now, I mean, the recyclability is way too good for me to feel like that's necessary. So Stepelia helps with getting them back in the extra deck as well. Recently added Proskenion. This card comes up so much that it would be crazy for me not to play it. If the Lubellion gets its effect negated, if I had to use Lubellion for Fallen of Albaz early on, because I didn't have Branded Fusion, I had him in hand or whatever, he got milled. If I go into Lubellion, I can make Proskenion, because he's a light, in order to get him back in the extra deck so that I can do it on another turn. Super good. Chimera, literally Branded in red, period. That's the only time this is happening. And when it does, it's going to win you the game, so it has to be there. It's the only reason this is here. It's probably the only reason this is here, to be frank. And I wanted to go over the cards in the side deck here. So this card's here because, again, I've considered it. It's good. It's just not as good as this card. This card is freaking great. Dragon and Fusion. I mean, they're just so good that I had them in the main for so much time. I just ended up putting this package in because it's better than Schism and Dragon and Fusion when you're going into your first game. I highly recommend trying these two cards out in your side going second, because the moment you activate Fusion, they have to respond. If they don't, you get way too much off of it. I mean, way too much. So definitely consider that still. Consider playing a second copy Branded in red if you really like the card and you decide to tweak this, because I'm sure you will. But that's why it's here, because I still want you guys to understand that this card is extremely good. It's very versatile, helps you push through negations. That's why it's still there. Theater, I've tested, it's good. I was stuck between either Poly or this as a 40th card at times, because that's why I have two Allure in there. This is just the best deck I've made, period. But I wanted to still kind of show the cases. You're playing Terraforming, so if you have this Terraforming, you can get Theater. It's still good. Apcolon's in here, mainly if you want to play Schism. Schism is huge. I mean, it's still extremely good. If you're mid-game, you mill Schism, you've already made your Winda or Construct, you're adding Schism to hand, set Schism, boom. Now you can get rid of a card on their field, you can make your second Winda. The card is great. But again, I've made this deck as best as I possibly can to optimize going second and going first. So that's why all the decisions I've made, these cards, I just don't feel like do it for me going first and second. So that's the deck profile. I'm gonna jump into some test hands and get a drink of water, dude. Alright guys, so we're gonna be getting into some test hands here. I had to switch to Edo Pro. Yugioh Omega seems to be updating or something. Tearlaments weren't working, but of course same deck. I'll be making a video I think for the combos and stuff and a few more hands because the deck's definitely hard to play. You have to account for your mills. You have to make sure you didn't activate the fusion card before. You have to account for your fodder, and every hand there's a million different routes. Like right here, I could brand a fusion off the rip. I could activate danger at some point, you know, like so they're definitely very versatile, which is a good thing. It helps with the replayability of the deck. But let's just go ahead and jumpstart into this. So we are obviously going to terraform first, get our field spell, activate that. And since I don't have a normal summonable effective play, I'm gonna grab Rhino Heart. So in which case, once I set Branded Fusion, to activate Nessie would be great because if I discard this, I'm going to add a monster to hand. If I discard this, I'm going to fuse one card Kit Kalos with Nessie and they keep changing the names, but yeah, Maru or Merlee, and if I discard Rhino Heart, I can ditch the trap card to add a card or her to fuse. So Nessie is the play here. I got rid of Rhino Heart, so I will special summon Nessie and draw a card. Access to Rhino Heart again, which is whatever. Activate him. So now I have a choice. If I want to ditch the trap card and search a monster, or discard Merlee to fuse. I'm going to fuse anyway with Reinhardt's effect. So that being said, I will probably ditch this to add a monster. I will chain block. And I will be adding Sherilyn, or yeah, you get it. I will send the level 3. I always send the level 3 first. It's my one of. It's the only thing it's there for, like really on my turn. So we're gonna go ahead and activate that and jump into the Kit Kalos using the Nessie because I don't really gain anything from Nessie besides that. So we'll do that, and then we will activate to add the trap card to hand. So I do have the option to activate this card now, and it has its uses. You can get rid of Alibur if he's on field to put him in the grave, which is good. If I pop Kit Kalos here, I'll mill 5, and that can really get the play moving additionally without having to use more resources. Yeah, there's a lot of utility for this. If you have Kaleido Heart out already on that last fuse, you can pop him to send the trap card to search a monster. So consider popping your own stuff, especially on your first turn with your field spell. There's a lot of utility for it. I'm trying to think. I've got Branded Fusion. Usually you want to fuse obviously 3 times each turn. Your first turn, you want to fuse into Kit Kalos, Winda, and you want to Branded Fusion into Mirror Jade. So either Kit Kalos or Kaleido Heart you should finish on. So in this case, I have the Branded Fusion, so I can send the Shaddoll and get into my Mirror Jade and have that set up. So all I really want to make sure is that I have some way to fuse one more time, and I do. I've got the Shaylin and the Maru, whatever, in hand, so I know I can just ditch that and special summon. So I'm gonna pop Kit Kalos here because I'm confident that I can fuse an additional time, not even just off of those 5 mills, but also when I get Shaylin out, the odds are very high that I will mill at some point a card. And again, if I ended up milling Shaddoll like I did, then I don't have to do that for the fusion, the Branded Fusion, so I'm guaranteed to send a Tearlaments instead. So perfect. And again, I built the deck to not rely on mills. Mills are an additive to the whole process. Should always play the safest route. Should not play to mill something. So we're gonna do Albaz, and then since I already have Shaddoll Beast engraved, I don't have to send a Shaddoll this time. I can either do Tragedy to add an Aliber or an Adlib. I could send Tragedy just to leave it in the grave and set a branded spell that I've already used. But I'm gonna definitely be using the level 2 as fusion material, so I'll just send Shaylin here because I want to activate that effect. So I will trigger here. I do not need an additional field spell. And by the way, the dangers do activate when you discard with Lubellion, so that's also an added little combo cushion for the dangers placed in this deck. So we will be going into Kaleido Heart because the Winda will be last. I'm going to put my my Keklos back in the deck because I want it back in there. I'm not going to be making Dragosepelia right now. I'm going to put him in defense because we have the trap card. I just want to ensure that I will be triggering my effect and not him getting destroyed by like Lightning Storm or something simple. So this is Lubellion's effect. We'll get those back in the deck. And at this point, we will be sending this away. And I did never normal summon as well, something to keep in mind. So if I had decided to do Tragedy instead, I could have normal Daliber to set Branded in red or Branded Opening, which Branded Opening is, again, super good. So we will get our last piece to this component, the Winda. So this is a perfectly ideal board. I mean, this is, like I said, you want to have Winda every time, Mirror Jade every time, and either Kaleido Heart or Kid Close, one of those two, with the trap card. Trap card is super important. If you can't, for some reason, you end up with just a Tearlaments in the trap card, you're just as well off, honestly, because if the opponent summons a monster, I can negate it with a trap card. I can negate its effects. Then if I send a Tearlaments to the graveyard, it then fuses, the spell card will go off, so I'll pop a card, and then the fusion's effect will go off. So I'm going to be netting 5 different positive things off of this one trap card. And if it's Kaleido Heart, when Kaleido Heart comes back, he'll shuffle a card and send a Tearlaments to the graveyard. So then I'll fuse on top of that, just off of that one effect. So trap card is insanely good. That's what I'm trying to say when I say that this is definitely the best trap card, in my opinion, unless I'm missing something entirely. This is the best one by far. So for follow-up play, this is going to give you full combo if need be. If, for instance, it benefits you more to get Fallen of Albaz out with Fusion Deployment and or Super Poly their field, that is an option with Fusion Deployment. So I really like it. It's versatile and it's has no requirement essentially, so it's super reactable. And then of course I've got plenty of fodder for more Tearlaments plays. If any of these are destroyed by card effect, something's happening, right? So it's a great starting board. Even if you get Nibiru'd, and I forgot to mention this earlier, if you get Nibiru'd mid-combo, there's a lot of times when you look at the cards that you're using, the Tearlaments and the Kid Kolos and stuff like that, they're gonna like react in some way, and you'll end up building a board through it, which is awesome. So let's jump into one more. So excuse me. We got a couple of dangers, which typically you don't want 2 dangers in the hand. Thankfully, Nessie is not once per turn for triggering its discard effect. It just, you can't search a danger twice, but I mean the odds of that happening are pretty low. So it's really cool that you can actually activate Nessie twice. So this is the best card right now for us. Still, it always is, kind of. And then Fusion Deployment's huge. We have Reinhardt already, but so we essentially, like, we have a way to get Alibur and Reinhardt without even normal summoning. Adventure Bird deck profile coming soon. So we're gonna want to use the opening because this can't get discarded. If this gets discarded by one of the dangers, I'm gonna cry. So we're gonna use this. And if we discard the Jackalope, we'll special summon Nessie to the field. So it's not like super advantageous. And then if we discard the Nessie, we can't get anything off of it because we already have Jackalope. So that's where the problem kind of came in once I saw this hand. And then unfortunately, if we usually discarding Reinhardt is good, but we have no other Tearlaments cards, so that kind of sucks too. So I think in this instance, the best thing to do would just to either go to Jackalope or honestly the Fusion Deployment because we don't need it at all. But we'll just do the Jackalope. So we're gonna get our Alibur here and activate that wonderful effect, and also chain block. So we'll get the Nessie out, which at least it's Aqua, so it's applicable to some degree, right? And then from here we can either normal the Reinhardt or Fusion Deployment. So or Branded Fusion to send the Shaddoll package. I think that's what we're gonna do. You know, let's see what our extra card is right now. Nessie will trigger as well, but Jackalope's engrave. So, like I said, the dangers actually do trigger off of the Lubellion discard. So, get our Albaz and our Squamata. Bet you've never seen this played before. And another branded opening. Okay, so now you really get to see kind of the highlight of Reinhardt. How good are we going to end up with just Reinhardt, right? So let's use the Fusion Deployment because I would like to save the normal summon in case I want to normal summon the level 2 Tearlaments. So we'll get the Reinhardt from deck. He's going to trigger. We will send our level 1 like we always do. And we will grab our Kid Colosse. Now you could go Winda, right? Because, I mean, it's pretty good by itself. Winda, LOL Winda. But let's use the Nessie on the field. We don't need that on there. It's got a good booty though. I could have left it actually now that I think about it. Might not be a bad idea to keep that there. So we're gonna grab the trap card because it's still the best card for when our turn is passed. We don't have any Tearlaments to kind of get on the field out of graveyard, so I am going to pop the Kid Colosse. And again, here, not a bad idea to just pop Alibur and get him in the graveyard once one of the fusion leaves comes back, negates an effect, and you kind of get that whole thing floating. It's always a good option to do, but we are seeking higher, and I'm okay to pass turn with the branded opening and the Tearlaments set. So we end up milling 2 different Tearlaments. So lucky, right? Period. You don't want to play for mills, but we did aight. So we're gonna activate both of them. I know I can make a Dragospilia because the Kid Colosse is engraved. So I could either go Kaleidoheart and Winda, Dragospilia. So we're gonna do Winda because we know we want Winda. We're gonna shuffle the beast back because if Squamata goes back in deck and I mill a Squamata, nothing happens. So always shuffle the beast back so you can potentially draw a card still. So Winda's out, and now we look at our array of cards. Kaleidoheart is just gonna be better all the way through. We also are going to shuffle back our Kid Colosse because we want to be able to go into that again. And we'll throw him in defense, and the trap card's set. And I'm trying to think of the possibility of how I'm going to net a card, because I want to set Branded Fusion too. if I really feel that I want to make another play on my opponent's turn, this is key, I can use the trap card, send Kaleidoheart to the grave. When Kaleidoheart comes back, I will shuffle a card, and I will send a card to the graveyard from the deck. Guess what I can send? The trap card. I can then add a Tearlaments to my hand, and then Branded Opening is going to allow me to discard that Tearlaments, fuse, bring out, say Tragedy, so that when Tragedy goes to graveyard, I can add a Branded Fusion back to the field, and then we're set. We're able to make several plays on our opponent's turn with a Mirror Jade, with a Winda. Yeah, it's good. This is what you want to aim for every time, is at least these 3 fusions. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I got to show the Danger package a little bit, the 2-card Shaddoll package, a little bit of the Despia interplay, and all the Tearlaments. So, I mean, that's pretty much the deck. Like I said, I'm going to do a combo video. I imagine it's very necessary. There's just so much to cover. You know, it may not seem like it because these packages are so small, but there's so many interactions that are important that I think it's important to know them to make sure that this deck is as powerful as it is. So I'll get that hopefully out soon, and leave comments on something that you might want to see that I haven't showed already in this. Thanks.